my existence. I am something. Mama, my. Asau, Nanda Maharaja. Patahi, husband. Eshaha, this Krishna. Me Sutaha is my son. Vraja Ishvarasya, of my husband Nanda Maharaj. Okila Bitapa, I am the possessor of unlimited opulence and wealth. Sati, because I am his wife. Gopyacha, and all the damsels of the coward men. Gopaha, all the coward men are my subordinates. Sahagodhanaha cha, with the cows and calves. May, my. Yadmaya, all such things addressed by me are, after all, given by the mercy of the Supreme. Itam, thus. Kumatahi, I am wrongly thinking they are my possessions. Same gatake, he is therefore my only shelter. I am simply instrumental. So translation, it is by the influence of the Supreme Lord's Maya that I am wrongly thinking that Nanda Maharaj is my husband, that Krishna is my son, and that because I am the queen of Nanda Maharaj, all the wealth of cows and calves are my possessions, and all the coward men and their wives are my subjects. Actually, I also am eternally subordinate to the Supreme Lord. He is my ultimate shelter. So you could repeat. It is by the influence of the Supreme Lord's Maya that I am wrongly thinking that Nanda Maharaj is my husband, that Krishna is my son, and that because I am the queen of Nanda Maharaj, all the wealth of cows and calves are my possessions, and all the coward men and their wives are my subjects. Actually, I also am eternally subordinate to the Supreme Lord. He is my ultimate shelter. So purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Following in the footsteps of Mother Yashoda, everyone should follow this mentality of renunciation. Whatever wealth, opulence, or whatever else we may possess belongs not to us, but to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the ultimate shelter of everyone and the ultimate owner of everything, as stated by the Lord Himself in Bhagavad Gita in the 5th chapter, text 29. Bhaktaram jagatapasam sarva lokamaheshwaram suradam sarva bhutanam gyatva mam shantim richati. The sages, knowing me as the ultimate purpose of all sacrifices and austerities, the Supreme Lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attain peace from the pangs of material miseries. We should not be proud of our possessions, as expressed by Mother Yashoda herein. I am not the owner of possessions, the opulent wife of Nanda Maharaj. The estate, the possessions, the cows and the calves, and the subjects like the gopis and coward men are all given to me. One should give up thinking of my possessions, my son and my husband. Janasya mohoyam aham mameti. Nothing belongs to anyone but the Supreme Lord. Only because of illusion do we wrongly think I am existing, or everything belongs to me. Thus Mother Yashoda completely surrendered unto the Supreme Lord. For the moment she was rather disappointed, thinking, My endeavors to protect my son by charity and other auspicious activities are useless. The Supreme Lord has given me many things, but unless he takes charge of everything, there is no assurance of protection. I must therefore ultimately seek shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As stated by Prahlad Maharaj in the Bhagavatam, 7th canto, 9th chapter, text 19, Balashaneha Sharanam Pitarao, the Singha. A father and mother cannot ultimately take care of their children. Ato Griha Kshetra Sutapta Vitaj Janashamoho Yam Ahamameti, Bhagavatam, 5th canto, 5th chapter, text 8. One's land, home, wealth, and all of one's possessions belong to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although we wrongly think, I am this, and these things are mine. Heavy purport. Aham amaso patiresha me suto parjesvarasya kila vittapasati gopyascha gopasaha gunanascha me yan maya yetam kumati same katihi so omagana chivalanda sha gananjana shalakaya chakshur militam yena tasmaya shigurave namaha. So I was just reading in the Gopal Champu, we're doing the narration of the Gopal Champu for the devotees, that there was some discussion about who were the parents of Krishna. Krishna was in Mathura, and there was discussion about where should Krishna go. You know, he should go and serve his parents. But who were his parents? Were his parents Vasudeva and Devaki, or Nanda Maharaj and Yashodamai? So there was this back and forth discussion. So finally, it's interesting, the conclusion given by the Acharyas, especially Srila Jiva Goswami, was that he gave a quote from the Vedic literature, which was quite interesting, that if your parents give you up and someone else, your birth parents give you up, and someone else takes care of you, they're your real parents. So in that way, it was decided that Nanda Maharaj and Yashodamai were the real parents of Krishna, because they had taken care of Krishna, whereas Vasudeva and Devaki, I mean, not voluntarily gave him up, but they gave him up. So still, Krishna didn't go back to Vrindavan. And the reason he didn't go back to Vrindavan is really interesting. And we'll get to the topic of this verse in a second, but these things are just coming to my memory because I worked on it yesterday. The reason Krishna didn't go back to Vrindavan was because the demons such as Jarasandha, who was the father-in-law of Kamsa, who was killed by Krishna, were getting ready to attack Mathura now, and they were angry with Krishna. So if Krishna had gone to Vrindavan, this is an external reason, of course. If Krishna had gone to Vrindavan, they would have attacked Vrindavan. So Krishna said, for right now, for all intents and purposes, no one should know that I am your son. Referring to Nanda Maharaj at this particular point. No one should know that I'm your son. It's just like, forget it. You don't know me. And of course, I mean, all the residents of Vrindavan were experiencing extreme anxiety, feeling separation from Krishna. Like we know a yuga cycle, yugayatam nimishena chakshusha pravashayatam. Separation from Krishna is just so intense for them. Anyway, so Krishna said to them, I will stay and take care of all these demons, kill them all, and then I'll come back to Vrindavan. So that was the assurance. And then Krishna sent, it's interesting, Krishna, Nanda Maharaj said, no, I'm going to stay here in Mathura with you. And Krishna said to Nanda Maharaj that you can't do that. Yashodamai will die. And then Nanda Maharaj said, that's all right, we'll bring her here. And Krishna said, that's not going to work. She has to take care of all the gopis and everything. And then Nanda Maharaj said, then we'll bring all the gopis and cowherd men and everything here. And then Krishna said, that's not going to work because there's no space for all the cows in Mathura. So you better stay there because taking care of the cows is more important. And in order to keep the cows from feeling too much separation, I'm giving Sudam my clothes that smell like me, you know, because they have the scent of Krishna. And the cows, they function on the basis of smell. Sight too, but smell. So this way they won't feel too much separation from me. So Krishna sent Sudam back with his clothes and sent Nanda Maharaj. Anyway, so that's just something that came to mind because we were talking about who is whose son here on this verse. But as far as the topic here of this particular verse, it's quite an interesting topic that really we are not anyone's, or no one is our husband or wife or son or whatever, even disciple. Sometimes we say, oh, this is so many disciples do I have today, so many more will I get tomorrow. I have conquered my... Anyway, that's demoniac nature, I know. But actually, no one is my... Actually, like Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur even thought like that, isn't it? He said he just considered all his disciples to be prabhus, and he would offer respects to them. And he said, if anyone thinks he's guru, he's goru. He's a cow or an ass. So, what does that mean as far as our interactions with people? Am I supposed to just say to all my disciples, I'm not your guru, and you're not my disciples? Or is Ishwar Puri's mother supposed to say to him, you're not my son, you just belong to Krishna? So this is rather extreme. Actually, devotees often take this to an impractical, impersonal extreme, which is like Buddhism or voidism or impersonalism or something like that, in the name of spiritual communism. Of course, Prabhupada did talk about spiritual communism. Spiritual communism means everything belongs to Krishna. Material communism means everything belongs to the state. And there was a problem with material communism. Big problem is everything belongs to the state, nothing belongs to anyone, and nobody took care of anything. So Prabhupada talked about how the tractors were rusting in the fields, right? So that's a problem because, proprietorship turns sand to gold. So you have this problem with communism, both spiritual communism and material communism, because if nothing belongs to you, then, who cares about it? And so we have the same problem in ISKCON that if, let's say, talk about cars, for example. It's Krishna's car. So if it was Krishna's car, I'm not saying we should think like this, I'm just taking this to the extreme, impersonal understanding that we often had in the beginning days of the movement. If it was Krishna's car, you really don't have to change the oil, clean it, and basically it would go kaput after, sorry about that Spanish. It would be finished after some time because nobody would take care of it. It's Krishna's car, it wouldn't be cleaned. Like one time Prabhupada was in the car with someone and Prabhupada wiped his hand on the dashboard and it was dirty. And Prabhupada said, who do you think this car belongs to? And so, Krishna. But there is that problem when we think that everything belongs to Krishna and we don't take personal responsibility. Because Krishna's going to protect, Krishna's going to change the oil. Like Krishna's a car mechanic, I can just see Krishna with his peacock feather, taking the oil, the plug out of the oil pan and draining the oil and things like that. Krishna's going to protect me if I go too fast. Krishna's going to protect me if I don't wear seatbelts. So, people take it to that extreme. And, and it was taken to that extreme. And what to speak of sometimes with parents and children. And, because people misunderstood Prabhupada's application, how to apply what Prabhupada wanted. For example, one time, I was with Prabhupada, and I was telling the devotees the story yesterday. I was with Prabhupada in, where was it? Dallas. Was it Dallas? Oh, no, it was Los Angeles. And there was a young boy there that, there was, actually his name was Bhakta Vishvareta. Some of you may know him. It was the son of Vishvareta, one of my godbrothers. And he hadn't been in Gurukula, and Prabhupada said to him, why aren't you in Gurukula? He said, my father took me away. And Prabhupada said, who's your father? Now, Prabhupada knew who the father was, the physical father. But Prabhupada was just like really drilling this young boy. And the young boy actually answered the right way. He said, you are Prabhupada. Prabhupada said, you're going back to Gurukula. But that didn't mean that the parents should relinquish responsibility. So you take that to an extreme, and then you had the parents, basically dropping the kids off, because it's not my son. Or you had teachers in the Gurukula who said, when their parents would write to them that she's not your mother, Ma means Maya. I mean, sometimes Prabhupada would even say like, but they would take things out of context, the Vedic literatures out of context, and encourage people without understanding how to apply this philosophy. So, in order to understand how to apply the philosophy, then we need to go back to the Upanishad. And the Prabhupada would often refer to the Ishavasya conception. Ishavasya means everything is owned and controlled. Right, Ishavasya yam sarvam yatkancha jagajam jagat. Everything is owned and controlled by the Supreme Personality. But they leave out the second part of the verse. It's just the first part. Everything is owned and controlled by the Lord. But the Lord has given us something as our quota. There's a difference. Prabhupada actually said in regard to cars, if it's everyone's car, it's no one's car. It gets neglected. So he said there should be just one person taking care of a particular car. So in other words, Prabhupada has, Krishna has given us something as our quota. This is yours to use, to be responsible for, to care for, and in the case of children, to love. So here in this verse, it's not saying that Yashoda's love for Krishna was Maya. There's a difference. And her taking care of Krishna was Maya, but her thinking or not being aware that there's the fifth factor in action, just like we know Bhagavad Gita, it's 5 factors in action. Krishna is the ultimate factor. But we can actually control the other 4 factors. We can actually control them. It's not that Krishna controls all 4 factors. There's independence. Sometimes people think, it's everything's controlled either by the modes of nature, or Krishna's control. I'm like Krishna's puppet. If I happen to yell at someone, I'll say that just Krishna made me do it. Just sometimes I may be a little cruel towards a disciple and chastise him, cruelly. You rascal, nonsense. I mean, just like yesterday. The day before yesterday, someone sent me a letter. They're in Vrindavan. And they sent me a letter. They said, can you give me a prayer to pray? And I said, pray that you can come to New Goloka. They wanted a Vrindavan prayer. So I just said, what are you doing there? You're not dying. Come to New Goloka and help out. Anyway, so sometimes we may speak a little harshly. Prabhupada even said that. Of course, Prabhupada was transcendental, but he was sort of, in a humble way, he was saying, I'm old. Sometimes we get a little cranky when we're old. Of course, Prabhupada was not subject to the body, but Prabhupada was giving that example. So it is a fact. With old bodies, sometimes you get a little cranky. So sometimes, you may say something a little harsh, and then after a while, hopefully you'll think, maybe I made a mistake, instead of thinking, because if you take this to an extreme that Krishna is controlling everything, every single aspect, then you'll just say, Krishna made me smash you. Don't blame me. What? And if we make a mistake, it's Krishna's mercy, I made a mistake, so it's really not our philosophy. But, devotees take that to an extreme. So the point I'm making here is that we should actually care for what Krishna has put under our care. Krishna's given to us, whether it's disciples or, what do they, spare the rod, spoil the disciple. So whether it's disciples or whether it's children or whether it's the building, the temple, there should be some care. I mean, just like yesterday I was walking around and I found someone had put a whole bunch of blocks up on top of the septic area, and would have crushed the septic tank just to throw old vegetables that were rotting there. So I just tore down all the blocks because I cared. I didn't want something to happen. I wasn't thinking, if Krishna wants, the septic tank will be crushed, and if Krishna doesn't want, the septic tank won't be crushed. So it's like I walk around the temple, and another thing we talk about, yesterday we were talking about how some of the boards in the deck, anyway, the deck needs a little work to be safe, so I care. Sometimes I say, if Krishna wants someone to be hurt, it's their karma. Or it's it's Krishna's desire, it's purification, Prabhu. This whole idea of purification sometimes, the meaner you get, the more someone gets purified, or the more austerity is. Prabhupada wanted the devotees, to learn simple living, high thinking. But he didn't, sometimes there's a conception with young people, young brahmacharis, you're supposed to subject them to as much austerities until they say uncle. Okay, I surrender, Hare Krishna. Like twisting the arm behind someone's back when we were young, and just say, uncle, okay, I'll be a pure devotee. No, I mean, that's not really what we're trying to do. So anyway, yes, we are interested in spiritual communism. We're interested everything belongs to Krishna, but we're also interested that Krishna has specifically given me this to use in his service. So I must protect it. And but at the same time, we have to know the really, it's like it's like two different things you got to keep in your mind, like a split personality, so to speak. That nothing belongs to me, and also this has been given to me by Krishna to be used in his service. So, of course, similar to this particular story of how Mother Yashoda understands that Krishna is not ultimately his son. Of course, Krishna is ultimately his son, but in one sense he's not. This is interesting too. That Krishna is no one's son. He's the source of everything. So ontologically, he isn't anyone's son. But according to Ras and Bhav, he is Yashoda Maya's son. So from different angles of vision, you actually see. You can't just look at things from one angle of vision. You have to look at things, this is like a Chincha Beta Beta Tattva. You're looking at things from different angles of vision. In one sense, Krishna is everything. Yes, from one angle of vision, Krishna is everything. From another angle of vision, everything has some difference with Krishna. Like Krishna's energy, Parasya Shakti, Vidaya Vachruyate, Svabhavaki Jnana Balakriyacha. The Jiva soul is, one sense, different from Krishna. At the same time, it's the same as Krishna. And the material energy, in one sense. Mayatatamidam sarvam jagadavyaktimurtina. As Krishna says in the Gita, by my unmanifested form, Mayatatamidam, I'm everywhere. Jagadavyaktim matstani sarvabhutani naham deshvavastata. So Krishna explains in the 9th chapter of the Gita, this is Chincha Beta Beta Tattva philosophy. So, but we always have to remember, and if we start to get too much possessive, or any possessive, thinking that something doesn't, and Krishna reminds us, just like that story of Srivas Thakur. Srivas Thakur his wife, actually, Srivas Thakur wasn't possessive, but Srivas Thakur's wife was thinking, my son, so anyway, go back and we'll tell the story. So there was a kirtan going on in Srivas Thakur's house. And during the kirtan, Srivas Thakur's son passed away. And Srivas Thakur noticed that the ladies were starting to cry. And he was worried that the crying was going to interfere with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's kirtan. So he told his wives, don't cry. If you cry at all, I'll give you something really to cry about. He was known as having a temper. Actually, that's, the acharyas say that. That's all right. I mean, another time, a crow had stolen a ghee pot, and Srivas Thakur's wife, Malini, was actually worried that her husband was going to just like blast her for it. So Lord Nityananda arranged that the ghee pot was brought back, just to pacify her. So anyway, so getting back to the story, so Srivas Thakur's wife didn't cry, and then what happened is Lord Chaitanya entered the kirtan, and he said, something has happened here, and Srivas Thakur said, no, it's something inconsequential. And Lord Chaitanya said, what happened? And Srivas Thakur said, just some person passed away, my son. And Lord Chaitanya said, what? Why didn't you stop my kirtan? And Srivas Thakur said, I didn't want to stop your flow of ecstasy. Now that's extreme. I mean, we don't do that. These are Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. If someone's son passes away, we take care of it right away. So anyway, so he went, so here's the point of the story. So he went to where the son's body was, and he said, put his hand on the son's chest, and he said, why have you left Srivas Thakur? And the son sat up for a second and said, so many fathers, so many mothers have I had, and now I have your association. Time to go back to Godhead. Hasta la vista. I'm going back to Godhead. So this, so we have to keep that in mind too. So it's really a balancing act in Krishna consciousness. How both things have to be there. Responsibility and even love. Just like I remember in the early days of the movement, like if a man loved his wife, it was just like, boy, he's really in Maya, Prabhu. Just like, what? So now, in my old age, I understand, not that I should change my ashram, but I understand it's appropriate for people to love each other. Why does Prabhupada talk about, or Rupa Goswami, talk about loving exchanges? If you're not the body, Prabhu, it doesn't matter that you're injured. It doesn't matter that you're hungry. You're not the body. You just like take it to that one extreme. And actually I don't really care for you, because you're not the body. Anyway, whatever. You're not my husband, you're not my wife, you're not my godbrother, you're not my disciple. So, Dadati pratigunat guyam akyati prichati bhungte bhosyate chaiva. And Prabhupada said our movement will increase by loving exchanges. It's not an impersonal movement. So we have to be very personal. And as I've been giving the seminars and empathy, how to be empathic, and we had Sangeeta give a seminar on how to take care of people who are leaving their bodies. Isn't it the different stages that someone goes through when they're leaving their bodies? They're in denial, they're angry, they're fighting, finally, like that. So it's not that we just go up to someone and say, this is all Maya. You're going to leave the body, and Krishna's going to take care of you, so don't worry, Prabhu. It has to be done lovingly. So that's the point. And as far as spiritual communism is concerned, take care of things that belong to Krishna better than if they belong to you. Like money, like Prabhupada said, we should think this is Krishna's money, not waste a farthing. If there's some money, if they belong to you, sure, you spell them. Go to the movies, go where else? Disney World. Yeah, there's another story. One time, Jayapataka Maharaj invited me to go to Disney World. I said, I'm not going to spend Krishna's money. You'll have to treat me. So he treated me. Anyways, of course, with Krishna's money. And I told that story about Vidananda Maharaj taking me to the movies one time. I've already told devotees that story. But, we should see that this money belongs to Krishna. This temple belongs to Krishna. Every, piece of wood there belongs to Krishna. Everything. Everything belongs to Krishna. So we just take care of it so carefully. And that's the proper consciousness. Anyway, so we still have about 10 minutes. So any questions or comments? I thought it was important to balance this whole discussion about nothing belongs to me, with quotas given by Krishna. Yeah, Prabhuji. Yeah.
And so we have the love of exchange, but maybe say a little bit more what that would look like, the love aspect. You mentioned empathy.
Well, love can be expressed in different ways. Of course, caring for someone, being concerned with not only someone's spiritual welfare, because as Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, and this of course I speak a lot about in my seminar, that everybody has material needs and spiritual needs. So let's say if a devotee is in need, or let's say a devotee can't pay their heating bill, like, something we've experienced that, then the devotee should help them at least build a fire in their house. But as long as it's a fireplace. But a devotee should help them, The other devotees should come. Like you see, other organizations that are spreading far quicker than us, they do that. They help each other. I mean, one of the reasons the Muslim or the Islamic movement is because there's this whole concept of brothers and sisters. If you examine it, and they take care of each other very well. So I'm saying not just as a strategy, there has to be the heart in it too. We can say, well, this is our strategy to take care of you. I don't really want to take care of you, but, I'm going to do this because it's our strategy for... But, body language speaks louder than words. So, yeah, there has to be that concept. I mean, we're too much, or we were too much into you're not the body. On the other hand, we don't want to get too much into you are the body. Like I said, it's a balance. If it just becomes like sentimental, let me kiss your boo-boo, and make it better, it gets a little mushy and gushy. So there's a balance, but there has to be genuine love. Now, why is there genuine love? Because Krishna is in every one. You're part and parcel of Krishna. You're my brother. You're my sister. And we have to start with loving ourselves too. It's this whole Mayavadi conception or illusion or whatever you may call it, that we should hate ourselves. I'm nothing. I'm useless. I'm hopeless. I'm worthless. I'm just dung. Horse manure, not even cow manure. So, denigrating ourselves. It's just like, what are you doing? You gotta, you're part and parcel of Krishna. Krishna loves you. Love yourself. Love everybody. I love all parts and parcels of Krishna. And if you see someone suffering, just like when the devotees in Australia, some lady was there was a fire. She was on the second or third floor of the building. They took out the Rath Yatra canopy, held it out, and saved her. And Prabhupada was pleased with that. And someone's in the hospital. Just go there. Not just devotees. I mean, one of the most successful, I don't want to say techniques, but strategies that the Christians have is they go to the hospital, not only when there's another Christian there, but even if there's a Hare Krishna there, and then they'll sit by their bedside and talk to them about religious things. So why don't we do that? I mean, there has to be love for all living entities, when we talk about Vidya, Vinaya, Sampane, Brahmani, Gavihastani, Shuni, Chaiva, Svapaki, Cha, Pandita, Samadarshana, doesn't mean we're aloof from all living entities. We see them all equally and we love them all equally. So, one can take that verse and misunderstand it and think, we should just, just all equal, you're all in Maya, you're all not your body. No, they're all brothers and sisters. Like Prabhupada said about St. Francis, first-class God consciousness. Prabhupada very much appreciated St. Francis of Assisi in that regard, yes.
But we also hear devotees sometimes will cite Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, who says, I'm lower than worm stool, and then he loses all his highest credits.
Yes.
Being humble, and we should be humble, but then we have to understand the different levels. I'm assuming
Yeah.
the different levels of realization before one can actually say.
Yeah, well, he's saying that is because, he's begging Krishna, take me, So the mood behind that is that Krishna, I'm yours, that's Sharanagati. That's one of the symptoms of Sharanagati, a very high level of Sharanagati. That he's thinking, I have no hope or no shelter, anything other than you, Krishna. So that's another thing, but
Not low self-esteem.
it's not low self-esteem. If we do that, you don't want to imitate the pure devotees like that. Like, I'm lower than the straw, lower than stool. What? You're not thinking like, you're just thinking about yourself more. Like, what do they say? True humility doesn't mean to think less of yourself, but to think about yourself less. So that's true humility. But that's an expression of Krishna, I'm yours. That my only hope is you, like that. So you can't imitate that particular type of statement of a great acharya. But there has to be love. And you see that with the Goswamis, they had so much love for each other. You read the stories about Srinivasacharya and Narottama Das Thakur and Shaimananda. Or Ramchandra Kaviraj, when he was separated from Narottama Das Thakur, he couldn't even bear it. Okay, on that happy note.
One time, devotee said, Prabhupada, I'm the most fallen